Good Thursday morning. What a frustrating loss for the Rangers. A game they really never should have lost after dominating after two periods, and the third period going in a different direction. Should have been up 2-0, 3-0 in this game. Antti Ranta was very good. The Rangers couldn't bury the puck, especially on that kid line with Capo Caco with the wide open net, and of course Philip Hedl with an opportunity as well and a great save there. Shesterkin was really, really good in this game. Defensively, the Rangers played the best game they might have played the entire playoffs. But, of course, Sebastian Aho ties it with a really skilled play to stick with the puck after a Shesterkin save. And then, of course, I don't know if you want to call it fluky overtime goal. You get a player who's not a goal scorer just throwing the puck towards the net, hits Lindgren's stick, and that's it. And the Rangers are down 1-0 in a series. They should be up 1-0 because they played their asses off. I don't know what's worse. That game that they played where they were just awful against the Penguins and didn't look like they wanted to compete and then just got, you flush that game and you move on, or a game like last night where you were beating the brakes off that team and you couldn't get it done. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
Good morning, Gio. I think you captured everything pretty much spot on. The thing about it from a Rangers fan's perspective, now we know how the Penguins fans feel after Game 7.
Yeah.
And the perspective is that, they were just sitting back in the third period. It was like being very careful, quick changes, trying to play defense. Panarin loafed back on that first goal by Aho. Something's going on with him. I don't know whether it's injury. We're not really sure. He had the snipe the other night in Game 7, but hasn't done much. They didn't generate any offense from their top two lines. It was their bottom two lines that generated most of the offense. And Antti Ranta, their former teammate, backup to Henrik Lundqvist, is a guy who had an amazing game in the first two periods. He kept them in the game. And it was like Igor didn't have to do much the first two. And I was like, fine, this is great. You're protecting your young goalie. You're playing against a really good team. And then all of a sudden they stopped like the offensive push in the third period, and they were trying to sit on a 1-goal lead, which, it's tough to do. I appreciate the attention to defense. I appreciate they were running a 1-2-2 there for a while, which I hadn't seen a lot of. And to me, it looked great on defense. And this is what I wanted. I wanted to see them protect the home net. But somehow there's got to be a balance. There's got to be more scoring opportunities from the Rangers. And remember, I did say that the Rangers' power play struggles against this penalty kill unit.
Yeah.
They took the first power play of the game and then promptly gave it right back. And then there was not another power play the entire game. So there are a million things to look at here. All I know is that I feel really disappointed for the players. I really do. They played hard last night. They blocked shots last night. They still have a problem in the face-off dot, especially important face-offs. Igor made some tough saves in the third period. There's no question about that. And then the final goal in overtime goes off of Ryan Lindgren's stick. This is hockey. This is what hockey's all about. It could be exhilarating. It could be frustrating. And certainly it could be maddening, and losing a game like that was maddening. Now, meantime, while this game was 2-1, it was blah, 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 a lot of defense. There wasn't a lot of shots being generated. The game after this went to 9-6 out
incredible.
In Calgary.
Yeah, absolutely
between the
incredible.
Edmonton Oilers and the Calgary Flames. But, hey, look, it's game 1. Now they got to go get game 2 on Friday night. That's all there is to it. I think both teams were kind of feeling each other out.
Especially early, yeah. There's no doubt about it. You were talking about withstanding that Carolina Hurricane charge in the beginning of the game, and that's what I was kind of expecting from them. I think a lot of people were, and it never really came. That building, which is known to be pretty raucous, was dead early on after the Rangers scored. For the majority of the first and second period, it felt like a regular season game from the standpoint of the building. And I said, man, the Rangers came in there and they basically, sucked the life out of Carolina, and they did. So that's why it's so incredibly frustrating, because that was, some of the things that the Penguins were lacking in the series, the Rangers were lacking against the series against the Penguins. They brought all of that into this game, into this matchup, which was so encouraging.
Yeah.
Because, it really felt like, man, they learned their lesson in that series against the Penguins, and now they've brought it in here, and who knows? If Shesterkin plays well, who knows? Maybe, that's the worst that they play is in that first-round series, and here comes a run, and They couldn't finish it off. I mean, and even the Aho goal, I mean, Shesterkin makes an unbelievable save on that. He just couldn't. I mean, the rebound was there, and Aho, I mean, to think about the skill to keep yourself that balanced, to be able to get that rebound and then put it into the net. I mean, that's why he's one of the best players in hockey. I mean, that was just an incredible goal there to stop, turn.
There was nobody around him.
Yeah, I mean, but
and the reason and the reason that there was nobody around him is that two of your best players, weren't really busting it getting back, and that's Mika and Panarin, who happened to be on the ice at the same time. Now, Panarin could have been at the end of a shift. I'm not really sure, but it was just it was frustrating because Kakko had the open net, as you said, in the second period. Lafreniere had a great shot. It hit a post. Niederreiter hit a post for them. Sometimes, it just doesn't go your way and things happen. While I am very disappointed this morning, don't get me wrong, I'm kind of like happy with the way that
you're encouraged that
I'm encouraged the way they played defensively. Yeah. I thought Keandre Miller had one of his best games in the playoffs this year, even though that I think he and Braden Schneider on the ice for the breakaway for Niederreiter. He got the pass from Jesper Fast. So I don't know. It was kind of like you're just sitting there. I know how all of the Ranger fans were doing because I was doing the same thing. I'm sitting here going, I know this is not good. This is not good. They're not generating enough offense here, especially once you got under like 5 minutes to go in the game. Mm-hmm. You're like, you keep chipping it out, and then eventually somebody is going to score for them. Just they're too good, and that's I kind of feel like that's what happened.
Yeah, I mean, Kakko also had another opportunity, not on the open net, but the Rangers thought it was a penalty because he lost an edge or something.
He was slashed. He was 100% slashed. And I tweeted out last night, definite 100% slash every time, especially when you're ahead of the defense, the way that he got ahead of the defense. And the defense comes back and they do whatever they need to do. And if you hit the opposing player with your stick while he has the puck on his stick up by his hands, that's an automatic slashing penalty. And it was not called, but that's hockey. That's
playoff hockey. Yeah.
It was just obvious for anybody, especially Ranger fans, that we saw that particular play happened to be a penalty that was not called.
So where you're at right now, it sounds like, is that it's as annoying of a loss as it was, as frustrating as a loss. You didn't necessarily expect them to play that well or play that type of way against Carolina.
I thought it was going to be like a 5-4 game. That's what I thought it was going to be, and it turned out to be a 1-1 game going into overtime. And Igor did not have that much really to do, considering what he had just gotten through.
Oh, my goodness.
Or came through against Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Look, Carolina is a very good hockey team. They forecheck like crazy. And then the other thing, you got to remember, Rob Brindamore, their coach, he changed up the lines in the third period significantly. I mean, he was moving guys all over the place, and that seemed to ignite them, especially in the last 10 minutes of the game.
Yeah, it did, because the first two periods, as we mentioned, they were completely dead. I mean, the Carolina Hurricanes were completely dead. He recognized that he needed to do something. He did something, and it worked, but it almost didn't work because that Aho goal didn't come until 2 minutes and 30 seconds to go.
But they were generating
in the third period.
But they were more. They were getting more turnovers. They were winning more faceoffs. The predominance of play was in the Ranger zone in the third quarter. So that was third period. So that was it's one of those games you wake up this morning and it's like, I can't believe they lost that game. But then there are those games like Game 7 against Pittsburgh, you're like, oh man, I can't believe they won that game.
Yeah, sure.
So this is part of the drama that will play out hopefully through a long series here, and hopefully the Rangers on Friday night can get the second game back.
Yeah, I think you got to feel now. I don't know if you will or not, but I think you got to feel a little bit better about the coach after last night. No, I mean, the fact that it seemed like there were some adjustments made.
No, I do. I mean, look, I'm not in here like I was last week.
Yeah.
Screaming and yelling about, the lack of effort, the helter-skelter play in the defensive zone and putting Igor out on an island. That was not the case last night. Last night was defensive first. They played better. They just didn't generate enough 5-on-5 offensive opportunities with their top two lines. I think Ryan Strome had one grade A opportunity. Kreider and Mika, I didn't even see them last night. I mean, they were there and they were skating up and down, but they did not get involved. There was nothing. There was no extended. Let's stay in their zone and let's buzz around. I mean, Ryan Reeves had more shots and better shots than Mika Zibanejad did. And, that is not a recipe for winning for the Rangers. Mika's got to be in the middle of it. Kreider's got to be in the middle of it. And he and those guys in Petrano never got going. What's his name? Gallant basically changed up some of the lines in Game 7 against Pittsburgh, and it worked. And it worked where Kopp actually fed Mika, and Mika scored the goal to tie the game, I believe it was. So, he does do some of that, but that's not really his nature. His nature is roll 4 lines. You play whoever's against you out there, and you got to know who's out there. And that's the thing that kind of bothers me a little bit. But last night they played their asses off. They gave great effort. They lost. It was a freak goal in the overtime, but that is NHL hockey. That is playoff hockey. Now they got to regroup, and their top players have got to play better offensively and be more committed defensively, especially late in the game, as they weren't last night.
All right, so the Rangers down 1-0 against Carolina. The other big story that came out of last night was Max Scherzer leaving. Mets win, which was nice to see, and the fourth game of that series will be played today. But Max Scherzer leaving the game and immediately knowing something was wrong, doing the throat slash sign in the 6th inning, and then that was the end of it. So there is a video of Jeremy Hefner, the Mets pitching coach, in the dugout talking to somebody, and when you lip read it, as John Boy has lip read it, he goes, "It's just his back, nothing bad." So backs can be a problem, clearly, but it's not as if it was, an arm or an elbow or a shoulder or
scapula.
Yeah, something like that.
It's not his side that's going to turn into something else.
That's what a lot of people thought, that it was going to be an oblique situation. Yeah. So we'll see. There's going to be an MRI done later today. But of course, when you don't have Jacob deGrom, you lose Tyler McGill, and now you've got an injury here that we don't know exactly the extent of with Max Scherzer. And the Mets are certainly going through it a little bit here, like I feel like they always do. Every single year. I mean, this is one of those, classic, you could change the manager, you could change the uniforms, everybody gets hurt.
Yes.
Every year, everybody gets hurt. So here we go again, and hopefully the lineup itself can stay intact offensively for the most part, even though you had the Nimmo's issue, and everybody's hurt. It's just amazing.
Well, it was just nice to see Pete Alonso hit a home run last night.
Right, exactly. Line drive shot.
Right, and to think that this lineup put up 11 runs, that's pretty good.
That was great. But this is exactly what everybody's fear was. Now, we don't know the Scherzer injury, but having those two guys, but not really having those two guys. That's what everybody's fear was. That was a Met fan going into the season, but got deGrom and Scherzer. But deGrom last season, you barely saw the guy, and he ended up being out for the year. We haven't seen him in a long time. We don't know what the hell he's going to be. Turns out nothing is what he is because he hasn't pitched. And then Max Scherzer is in his late 30s. And had a dead arm issue towards the end of last year. So what are you going to get from him? So like the negativity person, the going into the year, the negative Met fan, some of those feelings are being validated right now with Scherzer leaving that game.
What's amazing right now as we speak? The number one pitcher in Major League Baseball is
the number one pitcher in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, it could be ERA.
Nestor Cortez.
No, in Major League Baseball right now, number one is Justin Verlander.
Wow.
Who basically, was shut down, missed almost 2 years, I think.
Yeah.
He's got a 1.38 ERA, and he is pitching his ass off. So the question, I have to ask you now, when Jacob deGrom does come back, if Jacob deGrom does come back, and he opts out of his contract, are you going to give him a contract extension looking at Justin Verlander, or somebody else going to give him a contract extension? Because, the Mets are tired of all the injuries, all the missed starts, all the things that come along with a guy that, basically is grown up here. And it's just like he can't ever seem to get his act together. Does he go somewhere else and get his act together?
No, I think he's going to remain a Met. There's no doubt about it. It's either going to be one of two things. One, he can't get back on the field this year and look like anything like himself, so then he's not going to opt out, or he does come back looks great. The Mets have a postseason run, and Steve Cohen knows that you can't get rid of him, and you can't let him walk, and he pays him what he needs to pay him. One of those two things are going to happen. He's not going to go anywhere else.
It's one of those it's going to be one of those difficult, and then still we don't know the answer simply because we haven't seen Jacob deGrom. And as long as he's not here, and we are now, getting towards the second half of May, and we thought maybe, just maybe, he'd be ready to go somewhere around June. That doesn't look to be the case right now.
No, it does not, even though every story you hear and every MRI that comes across, there is improvement. I mean, it doesn't really matter to the Mets fan until he is out there pitching and pitching consistently.
And look, he's been legitimately injured. There's nothing really you could say about it. There's nothing else going on here. But you have to understand, like, the finances of baseball is like, he comes back and let's say he goes 5-0, and they do go into the playoffs, and he looks good. I mean, are you giving him a 5-year contract extension at $200 million?
I mean, if you tell me that the Mets are in the World Series and Jacob deGrom came back and won his Cy Young winning self, then the answer is yes. But I mean, it's a really tough question to answer right now because there's so many variables. But there is a scenario in which, yes, I think that is likely.
I mean, there's a clear path to that.
Oh yeah,
there's no
without
question
a doubt.
about it.
Without a doubt.
But that clear path hasn't started yet.
No, which is alarming for everybody involved. All right, Rangers down 1-0 to the Hurricanes. Mets win, but potentially lose Max Scherzer. Yankees, of course, win again. Jerry Recco's got all the details from his house because last night, all of a sudden, he deteriorated and went into some sort of sickness. So the Jerry Recco update will be from home, and we'll hear from him in just a couple of minutes.